So it's very frustrating because we know they're hiding something. And the hiding is what makes us dig deeper.
Many questions surround the shocking and horrifying death of a woman out in Arkansas whose body was found in a plastic storage tote just off of a highway. With limited information out there, we sit down with the victim's aunt to hear her side of what she thinks is happening, both behind the scenes and why her niece was savagely killed. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. I want to talk to you about a case that you might not have heard of, and I'm not surprised because there really hasn't been a ton of reporting on this, and it is very, very disturbing. And I will tell you what, it's a bit confusing too on a few different levels because this concerns the absolutely brutal killing of Troy Alexzandria Strope-Staggs, age 42, out of Forest City, Arkansas, married mother of 3. Let's go back to February 20th, 2024. And that is when a group of teenagers who were just riding around on four-wheelers that day discovered Troy's naked, decomposed body inside of a plastic storage tote. This was alongside St. Francis County Road 731. And it appears that a DNA sample was analyzed to confirm that this was in fact Troy's body. Now, Troy's family, they have provided us documents, details, a timeline of this case. But one of the things they also provided to us was a description of the possible injuries sustained by Troy. But since this information is so brutal and it hasn't been publicly released at this time, we're not going to share it here. But needless to say, according to the family, Troy was massacred. And even though there is limited information about this heinous crime that's being reported, we do know that there have been several arrests made in connection with Troy's death. So first to be arrested was 45-year-old Micah Lacy. He was charged with first-degree murder, abuse of a corpse, and a felony weapons charge. And interestingly, it was reported that Lacy was a person of interest since February, but he wasn't arrested until June. Then we had the arrest of 41-year-old Corey Jerome Anderson, who was charged with abuse of a corpse. And just this month, we had a third arrest. 50-year-old Willie Smith, charged with tampering with evidence and possession of a firearm. And to be clear, these are just initial charges. They haven't been convicted. And again, we don't have a ton of information about what led authorities to these three men or what evidence authorities may have. I will tell you this, though, regarding Lacy. We got our hands on this report that Lacy allegedly pulled a fire alarm in the St. Francis County Detention Center after he was arrested. And he allegedly told a corporal, "This is what you get for not moving me last night." The detention center was shut down for about 2 hours. This caused extensive water damage to the cells from the sprinklers. Lacy's been charged with impaired operation of vital public facility, and he was charged as a habitual offender after he's been previously convicted of multiple felonies. Now, Police Chief Ronald Broussard told local media that Troy was a friendly face that he'd seen often. Quote, "Whenever she'd see me, she'd say, 'I'm 1052. 1052 means I'm clear. 1053 means I have a warrant. She was just a sweet lady. No one deserves to die such a heinous, unforeseen death.'" A GoFundMe has been set up by Troy's family. We'll put it up there. And in the post, the family talks about their struggles with getting more information about the death of Troy and how they need legal help, how they are looking for legal counsel during the course of this process. And as I mentioned, the family was kind enough to send us a lot of notes and materials of their impressions, their accounts. For instance, they claim there were multiple crime scenes, that the authorities are in possession of video evidence, a possible video of Troy before she died or a cleanup. Again, this isn't official. This is their words. And they also allege that Troy may have been a confidential informant and was killed because of that. Now, to give you a sense of what you're about to hear, one of the things that the family sent us was an information, arrest warrant, an affidavit concerning a series of drug charges against Micah Lacy. And in the section titled Facts Constituting Probable Cause, it states, quote, "During the week ending November 5th, 2023, I, Detective Sergeant Preston Gracie, was contacted by CI 2020-007 in reference to making a controlled buy from Micah Lacy, a.k.a. Mick. The informant advised me that Mr. Lacy contacted them and advised that he had methamphetamine for sale and that he wanted to meet at his residence. It should be noted that CI 2020-007 is a trusted informant that has provided trustworthy information in the past with the Forest City Police Department. I met with CI 2020-007 at a predetermined location. The informant was then given a predetermined amount of money to make the controlled buy. The informant was equipped with a surveillance device. As the informant arrived, a barbecue grill and a bicycle could be seen on the front porch of the residence. The informant then enters the residence and sits at the table. Due to the crystal clear video, I was able to identify the suspect as Mr. Michael Lacy. Mr. Lacy is seen on the video activating a digital scale. Mr. Lacy then pulls out a large clear bag that contained a clear ice-like substance. Mr. Lacy then takes some of the clear ice-like substance out of the clear bag and places it on the digital scale. Mr. Lacy then takes the clear ice-like substance off of the digital scale and places it in a clear bag. Mr. Lacy then hands the clear ice substance to the informant. The informant then exits the residence and immediately returns back to my location. Upon making contact with the informant, I was handed a clear bag that contained a clear ice-like substance, and then it goes on to state that the clear ice-like substance field tested positive for methamphetamine and yielded an aggregate weight of 4.2 grams. Hey, by the way, thank you so much for coming to Sidebar to hear us talk about this story. It definitely needs more visibility, and one of the reasons we're able to do that, to present these stories for you each and every day, is because we get incredible support from our sponsors. And I want to highlight one that is really important for you business owners or those of you starting a business. It's called Odoo. So Odoo is a free all-in-one business management software that provides you with a range of applications that can help with the day-to-day of owning a business. So for example, I'm the host and executive producer of a popular YouTube show. It's called Prime Crime. It's on the Law&Crime YouTube page. Now, say if we ever wanted to charge for Prime Crime, and don't worry, we have no plans to do that, but I could seamlessly and for free build a Prime Crime website with Odoo and put a built-in checkout page on the website. Very little effort. Look how easy that was. 5 minutes later, I now have primecrime.com. And you can build your website now too. The domain is free for the first year when you use our link odoo.com/LC Sidebar. Hope you can check it out. I had the opportunity to sit down with Eve Dillman. This is Troy's aunt, to hear more about what the family has been experiencing, what they've been going through. And as you will hear, though, she has different theories and claims about this case and the players involved. Now, I have to be clear about something. We haven't been able to independently verify many of these allegations and her opinions as of yet, but nonetheless, we did want to provide Eve and the family a platform to talk about what's been going on. So let's take a listen. Eve, thank you so much for coming on. I am so sorry for your loss and for what you and the family are going through right now. You sent us a timeline of events, documents, details about the story. Really appreciate it. But where I want to start before we get into all that is I just want to know how you and the family are doing right now.
It's a struggle every day. Yesterday was 6 months that they found the tote, and every day we live it. Every day, every morning, every night. It's just haunting and horrific, and we just cannot move past it without getting some kind of justice.
When I was going through the documents and I was going through your notes, the word that kept coming to my mind was frustration. There felt like a lot of frustration. What would you say is the most frustrating aspect of this whole investigation?
Well, I would say that it's that they sealed all the documents, and we gave them tons of information, tips, and they gave us nothing.
When you say by the way, do you mean law enforcement? Do you prosecutors? Who are you referring to?
Yes, both. Law enforcement, the detectives, every time I would call, they would say, we can't give any information. It's an ongoing investigation. Even after the arrests were made, they didn't want to give us any information. So it's very frustrating because we know they're hiding something. And the hiding is what makes us dig deeper. And it's what makes us try to figure out what really happened. Because it was so horrific. There is no way that I would believe what the head detective told me, which is she was shot at the Buford house by Lacy, and she was disposed of, and it was over money. And I don't believe any thing other than she was shot by him. But there's a whole long timeline in between the time that she was shot and the time that she was put into the tote, and the involvement of the amount of people. It was so horrific. There had to be something going on other than what they are telling us. I don't believe it was over money. I don't believe that he disposed of her. I've heard so many other stories that it's just unbelievable.
To be clear, and I went through the notes, do you believe that Troy was killed because she was working with police as a confidential informant? And why do you believe that?
Yes, we have come to that conclusion because as we dug through the documents, I'm going to give you a timeline. So the first warrants, 5 warrants, were issued on January 3rd. Then an arrest was made for Lacy on February 2nd. He went in front of the judge on the 5th. He was released on the 6th. And that was a charge of felony. So how he was released, the bond was set at $50,000. Those documents are not available to us, how he got out.
But those were drug-related crimes?
Correct. So he gets out on the 6th. While he is out, Troy's body ends up found on February 20th. Sheriff May, who is the head of that county, says on national TV that her body was decomposed for about 2 weeks. The timeline is perfect for 2 weeks. So they identified her body. She was found on the 20th. They identified her body on the 26th. On the 29th of February, they went into the Lacy house with the warrant. Now, what they were going in there for, or how they would know to go there, is unbelievable. But they went in, they arrested him again. They confiscated forensics. To my knowledge, people are saying it was like 6 bags of forensics that got taken out of the home. And we were told after that, all they were doing is waiting on forensics. Meanwhile, he gets released again. And then in May 16th, they go back into the house a 3rd time. And at that point, they arrest him. He's been in jail since. But they took out, to my understanding, all the furniture in the house. Now, meanwhile, we've been giving them tips of all the stories on the streets. And the way we got those stories is we started a Facebook page in honor of Troy and a GoFundMe page to start a reward. And when we did that, people started opening up to us. Now, the page was meant for grieving, sharing her stories, her pictures, all of us to have a place to vent, share items, tell her life. And then it became private messages on Messenger, text messages to us, phone calls to us, and the list just never stopped. It's still going. The list is still going. Even in my timeline, you'll see that it says it's not complete. There's so much conversation that still needs to be put in there that was told to us, and it is very time consuming, but we are determined to get answers.
But just to clarify, what about that? Was it from the information you were getting from, like you said, people on the streets, that she was a confidential informant? What was it about that you think that that's what she was essentially killed over? And what was her job? What do you think she was supposed to be doing? And what was she killed over?
Okay, so Troy had three arrests.
Okay.
The middle arrest disappeared. That was in 2020. Troy, the CI number on all the papers that we pulled, my sister went into Arkansas documents of the courts and pulled all the arrests. All 5 documents of the people involved had the same CI number, 2020-007. So we have come to the conclusion that Troy was that CI for a few reasons. One, she took her child back to her husband right when that was happening and said, she'll be safer here. Troy would never leave her children for something that was, not serious. And she then had to establish herself with these people in the drug scene, and in order to get them arrested. There was 10 buys, 2 for each of the guys, and all the documents are in the information that I gave you, and they're public knowledge. So you can go on there and you can pull it up and you can read. They're all similar, but they all have the same CI. And the reason we feel they failed her is not because she was a CI, because I've been told CIs die all the time, which I find utterly ridiculous, but we feel they failed her because they put that information on the paperwork that they gave these 5 guys, and they're all in the prison or the lockup together. So this is how they figured it out. Now, if you look up other people who are in the lockup, their CI information says this CI will be known as CI. No number, no nothing.
But just did you get clarification from law enforcement? Did they say?
No, they won't. They won't tell us.
Did they even
anything.
say you're right that CI means the confidential informant number? They haven't given you any confirmation about this whatsoever.
No, but they haven't denied it either. They haven't reputed it anywhere, and we have put it even on our page. We have put it out there, and it's about to go all over in a letter, and they have not reputed it.
And you believe that is why they're not sharing more information?
Absolutely. I believe that Lacy started the killing. There were a bunch of people involved before she was dead. And the reason they have only charged Lacy and the other 2 gentlemen, which is Corey Anderson and Willie Smith, they charged them on the back end as abuse of a corpse and tampering with evidence. And the reason they haven't charged them with anything else is because they would have to make Lacy's charge capital 1, which would give him the death penalty, which we were told by the prosecutor will never happen.
Why?
And we believe that it's because his mother is a quorum peace justice of the peace in the county, and his stepfather is a mayor in the county, and therefore the power overrules the justice.
One question about that. If there is this idea of protecting Lacy, was he the target of, in your opinion, was he the target of the investigation that Troy was a part of? Was she supposed to be providing information about Lacy, or was she looking into other individuals? I guess that's the confusion, right? Were law enforcement really using Troy to get information about Lacy, which again would kind of be inconsistent with this idea of they don't want to go after him?
So there were 5 guys that had the same similar charges and that had that same CI. I don't think he was picked out alone.
Okay.
I believe he got caught up in it. And I believe that he was so furious that when he found out, he was making an example of her to say, if this is what you do, this is what's going to happen to you, because they cut her up and put her in a tote and put her on the side of the road for everyone to find. If it was not meant to be, if they didn't want this information to be known that they had done this to her, they could have did anything else with her body.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask you this, and correct me if I'm wrong. Do you also believe that when the court, according to the timeline you laid out, let Lacy out on those drug charges, that Troy was still alive, and that if he hadn't been released, Troy might still be alive today?
I absolutely believe that. And we have a text from her family on January 23rd, okay? Then she had spoke to one of her family members on the telephone the weekend of February 2nd. She was still alive. And I do believe he got out just to get her.
And by the way, I could be 100% wrong about this, but I was looking at some of the documents. Am I wrong to say that Michael Lacy right now, we're not exactly sure where he is?
So last night we received a notification that he had been moved. When I looked into the St. Francis County lockup, it said he was released. So I sent that information to your director. But since then, we now know that he's in Phillips County, that they transferred him, and it's been said it was for his safety.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm guessing you don't believe that.
Well, they're worried about the murderer's safety, not the victim, or the case at hand about the murderer. I don't buy.
Let me ask you this. I also were you and the family trying to get a copy of the autopsy report from Troy? And
Absolutely.
What's been going on there?
We were told that we will not get a copy of the autopsy or any information case until every appeal has been exhausted from everyone involved. To me, that says almost never. They don't want us to have any information, if we will know our conclusions are correct, and we will know all the information of what they did to her, how it happened, and that there were more people involved than Michael Lacy.
And that's what I wanted to get to too with you, Eve. Do you believe there are more people involved? Do you believe there are going to be more arrests?
So 2 arrests were just made, and we know they were names that were told to us they're involved. But as all the other ones charged on something else, just to get them in there to question them. If they're actually going to charge them, I don't know. But I know that they know there are more people involved. Originally, we were told more arrests would be made. And then not too far back, the advocate, whose name is Mary Castle, told us that she thought they were all finished. So at that point, it says to me, they should be releasing something to us, but they have not. They will not give us any information.
Have you retained an attorney, or are you looking at retaining an attorney to be your representative in this matter, to help be kind of the middle person between you and law enforcement, or you and the prosecution?
Absolutely. We have been searching for one, but as soon as they hear St. Francis County, they either hang up the phone, they don't want any part of it, or they give us an astronomical amount that they would charge us if they did represent us. So we now have a GoFundMe page where we're trying to raise money for an attorney, and we are hoping to get the records unsealed. We are hoping to get an autopsy report. We are hoping to get information to prove what our conclusions are. But every avenue, including going to the courthouse and requesting the documents, we are told they're sealed. So we have only the documents that they will release to us, and we have every single one of them. But the ones they won't release to us is where the proof is.
And in terms of next steps of this case, the actual hearings, what's the next step? Can you tell us?
So they keep postponing it. So originally, we all traveled up to 1,500 miles to go to the hearing that was on July 22nd. And when we got there, the prosecutor took my husband and myself into his conference room to tell us normally what would happen is they would put all the charges together, meaning all the drug charges, the murder charge, everything together, would then go in front of the judge for a plea. He said, but not in this case. He said, Michael Lacy has gotten himself a hernia, which we found out from his wife he's had for 10 years. But regardless, he's gotten himself a hernia and he needs hernia surgery. So what they want to do is make him go in front of the judge to plead for the smallest deal, which would be the first drug charge of January 2nd. And then therefore he would become a ward to the state on the state's dole instead of the county's dole. So the county could pay for his surgery. I mean, the state could pay for his surgery and the state could pay the county to house him. So he said, that's not going to happen. And that's when we were like, why isn't it happening? And we looked into and found out that his mother was a quorum of justice of the peace and his stepfather. And so that there was a power struggle there. We're like, something's not right here. And it made us dig deeper. And these are how we found these things, because we could not just take that for an answer.
Look, Eve, this is, again, going back to what we said before, I hear the frustration. And you not only want justice, you want transparency. And I know you're going to continue to follow this. You're going to continue to shed light on what's happening. I appreciate you coming on to talk about this. Again, hopefully this was a platform that we can share this story a little bit more for people that don't know about it. But as you said before, if people want to support you, the best way is the GoFundMe, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We also have a Facebook page for Justice for Troy Strope, and you can get that by hashtag. It'll take you right there. Hashtag for Justice for Troy Strope will take you to the group. And on the group also is the GoFundMe page.
And before I let you go, can we just go back to Troy for a second? What was she like? What kind of person was she like? Sometimes in these cases, we get so caught up in the legal aspect and the investigation, we forget to focus on the victim in all this, who was, not only tragically taken away from you and the family, but in such a brutal fashion. What was she like?
Troy was a really sweet person. She would help anybody. She always had a smile on her face. Even the Forest City chief police in an interview said she's always smiling. Troy was trying to make a better life for herself. She was trying to straighten her life out, he said. And it led me to believe, too, that he worked closer to her, which made me also believe that she would be a Forest City CI. And so that Forest City is in the county of St. Francis. So the house where she was killed at is in Forest City, but the tote was found in St. Francis County on a county road. But Troy would be seen riding her bike. She would help. The last picture I have of Troy is she is riding her bike next to a little boy who is trying to learn how to ride his bike on his training wheels, and she's giving him some tips. That's the kind of person Troy is. She would give you anything she had, and she had nothing.
She sounded like such a great person. And again, I'm so sorry for your loss and for the loss of your family. This is really, really a tragic story. I appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you sharing the details. Eve Dillman, thank you.
I appreciate that you listen. I appreciate that you're trying to help our family, and I hope we get justice.
So again, this is Eve's opinion. We haven't been able to independently verify these claims as of yet, but it's interesting. It is interesting. And what we can say, without a shadow of a doubt, this is clearly a tragic, tragic story. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.